let's make some radial symmetry mandalas with printmaking. Radial symmetry is when something is symmetrical, each quadrant is the same, and the pattern is rotated coming from the center. So I know that this isn't the one, but it starts in the first quadrant, just like a clock rotates. Just like a clock rotates one more time, so each of the sections are the same. The design is radiating from the center. We'll use printmaking foam, which is kind of a styrofoam base, and we're not doing the whole entire mandala. We're just doing one of the sections, and we'll be printing onto some paper that we have watercolored. When you're writing your name, it does need to be in Sharpie on there. On the other side, you can start from the corner. That's kind of the best place to begin. If you want something that's a perfect circle, that can be a little tricky. Usually it doesn't end up turning out quite like a perfect circle, but you could use a lid, putting the very center here and kind of tracing along the edge. But perfect circles aren't always the most fun, so play around with some designs. You can think about something that starts directly from the center and works its way out and around. This one had the edge cut off, which would show more of the watercolor design. I wish that this one had that edge cut off so we didn't see the black ink printed there. Let's focus on our design. So many shapes that we can use to create our images. How will you use shape, line, and pattern on your mandala? Once your design is finished, let's think about how this will print onto our paper. We'll be using a pen or a wooden stick, whatever your teacher gives you, to carve or push down some areas of the foam so the ink will only touch the raised surfaces. So when you're printing, this was a test print, you'll notice that the pushed down areas on our foam won't receive any ink, and so it turns out white there. Any areas where your pen has not touched will be black like the ink. So think like a rubber stamp, how some parts are pushed down and some parts are raised up. So on this one, wherever I push down ends up being the color of my paper. So as I'm coloring, really push. It's also okay if your pen doesn't show up. So if you're like, oh, my pen's not working, it doesn't matter. The only thing we care about is that it's pushing down the foam. If you decide that you want pattern in places you didn't have it with the Sharpie, that's okay too. So now as I am carving, my outline will be the color of my paper. This will be the color of my paper where I push down, and the raised areas will be black. Really take your time, go back and forth, but don't push so hard that you are tearing your foam. Be gentle with it. Once you're done carving, decide if you want to cut off the extra, or maybe you filled yours all the way to the point with design. A couple things to note though here. This piece and this piece, when they're rotating across my paper, likely won't line up perfectly. If I were to measure this piece and measure this piece, they're close, but it's not going to line up perfectly. If that bothers you, then you want to have whatever shapes you are doing not be cut off. Don't do half the shape, but get the whole shape on there. Kind of like this one, the whole shape was on the piece of foam and not the half shapes, because generally half shapes don't line up perfectly. Not the end of the world, but that's just something to keep in mind as you are creating. Also, when we get to do the prints don't always turn out absolutely perfect, and that's okay. That is a part of the process.